We'll start with one Vaishnav song. Many of you may have heard it's a very wonderful prayers. We'll read the translation first. When will that opportune moment come to us? When there will be shivering of the body as soon as we chant Lord Gauranga's name. While chanting Hare Krishna, when will there be tears in my eyes? When will I obtain the mercy of Lord Nityananda Chandra? When, by his mercy, will the desire for material enjoyment become very insignificant? When the mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxieties and desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. Then my spiritual life will be successful. When shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the six Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami? By their instruction, I shall be able to properly understand the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. My only aspiration is to attain the lotus feet of the six Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Narottam Das constantly prays to attain their lotus feet. Okay. Gauranga bolite habe Pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite sada Nayane babe nira Gauranga bolite habe Pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite sada Yani babeni babeni tal chande Koruna hoibe Samsara basanamara Pitu chahave Arakabe nitai chande Koruna hoibe Samsara basana mora Kabe tu chahabe Vishaya chadiya kabe Shuddha bimana Kabe hama he rabo Shri Vrindavana Vishaya chariya kabe Shuddha bimana Kabe hama he rabo Shri Vrindavana Rupa Raghunatha pade Hoibe Narottam हरि हरि बोलिते नयन भवे नीरा हार खावे नितर चंदे करुणा होइबे संसारा भाषण मोरा कवे तू चाहे विषया छड़िया कवे शुदा बेमाना कवे हमारे रवो श्री वृंदावना विषया छड़िया कवे शुदा बेमाना कवे हमारे रवो श्री वृंदावना रूप राघो नाथ पदे हरिबे आकुति कवे हमारो जागो से जुगल प्रीति रूप राघो नाथ प्रभु रूप राघो पद रूप राघो नाथ पदे प्रभु मोरा आशा प्रार्थना करो रे सदा करता मोरा आशा गौरंगा बोलिते हवे का शरीरा हरि हरि बोलिते नयन भवे नीरा हार गावे निताय चंदे करुणा होइबे संसारा भाषण मोरा कवे तू चाहे विषया छड़िया कवे शुदा बेमाना कवे हमारे रवो श्री वृंदावना रूप रघुनाथ पदे हरिबे आकुति कवे हमारो जागो से जुगल प्रीति रूप रघुनाथ पदे प्रभु मोरा आशा प्रार्थना करो रे सदा करत मोरा आशा गौरंगा बोलिते हवे पूरा का शरीरा हरि हरि बोलिते नयन भवे नीरा. Okay, those who join late, once again we read the translation. When will that opportune moment come to us? When there will be shivering of the body as soon as we chant Lord Gauranga's name. While chanting Hare Krishna, when will there be tears in the eyes? When will I obtain the mercy of Lord Nityananda Chandra? When by his mercy will the desire for material enjoyment become very insignificant? When the mind is completely purified, being free from material anxieties and desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, and then my spiritual life will be successful. When shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the six Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami? By their instruction, I shall be able to properly understand the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. My only aspiration is to attain the lotus feet of the six Goswamis headed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Narottam Das constantly prays to attain to their lotus feet. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मयं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिय वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हम जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। हरि हरि प्रभु मते करे न प्रवेशा हे माते वैष्णव प्रभु कैला दक्षिणा देशा. Being thus defeated by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all these philosophers and their followers entered into his cult. So we saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued his South Indian tour, and then he went to a village where they were mostly Brahmanas. And all the Brahmanas, they came, they surrounded Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and some were Jaimini philosophers, some were Shankaracharya philosophers, some were Mayavadis, some were Brahmavadis, impersonalists, and some were Yajurvedis, and uh, they all have their own faith, and they all were preachers, and they all were ready to convince the whole world about what they feel is right. But being thus defeated, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they argued with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated all their arguments. So all defeated all these philosophers and their followers. So all the leaders and their followers, they all joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in chanting Hare Krishna. In this way, Lord Chaitanya made South India into a country of Vaishnavas. So wherever he went, whoever we discussed last time, he went to um, Mallikarjuna, which is Jyotilinga, one of the 12 Jyotilinga. He converted all of them. Then Madhvites, Madhvacharyas, how they also had a flaw in their philosophy discussed. They did not consider the pastime of Lord Brahma as appropriate from Srimad Bhagavatam, that he was illusioned. Because they say we are followers of Brahma is our Sampradaya Acharya, one of the four. So how can he be illusioned? So even Madhvacharya did not write a commentary on Brahma Vimohan Leela. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like follows Shastras as it is. So and then we will see further he converted the Madhvites um, and all these different philosophers. And we'll see today, not today, but upcoming week, that he also converted all the Sri Sampradayas into chanting Hare Krishna and accepting Krishna's supreme personality of Godhead. So then, पाषंडी आइला यतापन दैत्य सुनिया garva kari aila sange shishyagan alana. When the non-believers, this is where we are starting today, when the non-believers heard of the erudition of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they came to him with great pride, bringing their disciples with them. So some of them were very envious. So when some of them heard that all the Brahmanas are accepting the culture brought by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they became very envious, non-believers. So they heard what is Mahaprabhu's teaching. This is a difference between hearing the philosophy and hearing the philosophy from a pure Vaishnava. When we hear just the philosophy, then the mind may the mind and intellect will present many arguments of how they are wrong and we are right. This is what happens when there is no interference from a pure devotee, because Krishna becomes very active when the words are coming from the mouth of pure devotee. So they heard the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they came to defeat Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They came with him with great pride. We will show this Chaitanya. What does he think of himself? We know what is the right thing. He is making fool of everyone. So with great pride, they came with their disciples to defeat Lord Chaitanya. That's what happens. That's why when Prabhupada came, it is his what happens. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that a pure Vaishnava adds his bhakti shakti to the philosophy. Bhakti shakti. That bhakti shakti touches the heart. And when the philosophy is touched with Bhakti Shakti, then the Lord sitting in the heart of other person, because of the Antaranga Shakti, the other person is convinced that this is the right thing. This is the right thing. So mostly, but at the same time, people have false ego. So even though if they have very big false egos, then even though Bhakti Shakti will touch them and some conviction will come within their heart that makes sense, but out of false ego, they don't want to accept that it makes sense. So they, when they are defeated in a way, they are convinced within their heart, still they try to show as if there is flaw in it. That is simply because of false ego. So some of them, but just philosophy will not have that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, um, um, Sandhini, Sambit, and Haladini. So these are the three potencies of Krishna. So, okay. Sandhini, Samvit, and Haladini, these are the three Shaktis of Krishna. So when a pure devotee speaks, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Haladini Shakti mixed with Samvit potency. Samvit potency is knowledge potency, cognizance, knowledge, and bhakti. When they mix together by the divinity of the Vaishnava, and then it is spoken, it touches the heart. The Haladini Shakti humbles the heart and makes one receptive to hear. That's why Srila Prabhupada would always do Kirtan, because Kirtan will create that divinity, that Haladini potency, because it's Lord's names. And then philosophy, when spoken after Kirtan, will have much greater potency, because the heart is relatively cleared. So, Baudha, um, Baudhacharya Mahapandita, Nijana Vamate, Prabhura Age, Udgraha, Karila Gila Balite. One of them was a leader of Buddhist cult. So, one very envious person, he was a Buddhist Acharya, and Buddha Acharya. And he was a very learned scholar. He knows the Buddhist philosophy. To establish the nine philosophical conclusions of Buddhism, he came forward before the Lord and began to speak. So he was saying that, what is this Vaishnava cult, and this is all nonsense. I will go and defeat them, because every philosopher propagator wants to defeat all other philosophies to establish his own, because of ahankar. So this Buddhist philosopher also came and to establish the nine philosophical conclusions. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami does not describe in detail what are the nine philosophical conclusions of Buddhism, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his commentary. He says, and Prabhupada is quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he says, along the Buddhist path there are nine principles. So what is the Buddhist philosophy based on? They say the creation is eternal, therefore there is no need to accept a creator. So that's why Buddhism is called atheistic philosophy. So they say there is no need to accept a creator. Why? Because creation is always there. So creator means he created, but there is nothing created because it's always existing. So there is no creator. This cosmic manifestation is false. They say this is illusory. In Vaishnava Siddhanta, It is described that this is temporary. This is temporary, and there is samsara, birth and death, and it is bhutva bhutva praliyate. It's created and annihilated, and created and annihilated. But they say it's eternal, and no creation annihilation, and this cosmic manifestation is false. This is what Mayavadis also say. That is why Padma Puran calls Buddhism as covered Mayavad. So, because they also have the same conception that this cosmic manifestation is false. I am is the truth. So, it's all about me. It's all about, as long as I am the center, I am reality, everything else is illusion. I'm the reality. So, because I'm the reality, I must not get involved in this illusory conception. So, I must not desire anything, and then I will enter into voidism, something like that. It's complete bogus actually. There is repetition of birth and death in illusion as long as we have desires. We take birth in illusion. Just like, anyways, Lord Buddha is the only source of understanding the truth. So this is like everybody says that we are the only ones who go to hell. So Buddha is the only source of understanding the truth. Actually, Buddha is a naturally incarnation of Krishna, Supreme Lord Himself. But Rupa Goswami says, but we reject Buddhism philosophy because he rejected the Vedas. But then many of these philosophies were concocted by his followers. The principle of nirvana or annihilation is the ultimate goal. Nirvana means shunyavad, zero, nothingness, is the ultimate goal, they say, which Krishna does not accept. He says, we are always there, I am always there, you are always there. There will never be a time in future or in the past when we did not exist or will cease to exist. Um, mm, um, The philosophy of Buddha is the only philosophical path. The Vedas are compiled by human beings. So this is another reason they are considered atheistic, because that's why covered um, 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 Mayavad also, in a way, no faith in the Shastra. And that's why Rupa Goswami says we reject Buddha, because their follower says, because he rejected Vedas in a very subtle way which people could not understand. We know the understand, we have the understanding. So the Vedas are compiled by human being. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the scriptures are compiled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In third chapter, Krishna says that pious activity, showing mercy to the others, and so on are advised. So Buddhism is only do good, feel good thing, nothing else. So they say show mercy to others, do good and feel good and all those things. This is what is advised. And don't have any material desire and enter Shunyavad. Prabhupada said, Nirvishesha Shunyavad Paschatya Deshatatma. He removed impersonalism and voidism. Basically, Shankaracharya philosophy and Buddhist philosophy from the world. Um, Pranam prayers of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Buddha, this Buddhist leader, he came to establish these 9 philosophical conclusions, and he wanted to defeat Lord Chaitanya that these 9 conclusions are correct. So Krishna Goswami says, although the Buddhists are unfit for discussion and should not be seen by Vaishnavas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to them just to increase their false pride. So Chaitanya Charitamrita declares that Buddhists are not fit to be seen. In other words, if you see a Buddhist, go and take bath in Ganges to purify yourself, because they are so contaminated. Because they reject the Vedas, they say there is no God, and I'm sorry to say, but useless rascals. So Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says they are unfit for discussion. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very merciful, and then he spoke to them just to decrease their false pride. So very interesting story here. Buddhacharya Nava Prashna, Sabha Uthaila Nava Prashna, and the 9 principles. Sabha Uthaila, Dida Yukti Tarke Prabhu, Khanda Khanda Kaila. Khanda Khanda means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu broke those 9 principles into pieces. The teacher of Buddhist cult set forth the 9 principles before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu broke them to pieces with his strong logic. So one thing is, we have to defeat the philosophy like the adharmic philosophy, unshastric conclusions with logic and arguments also. From Shastra, from like if you see Srila Prabhupada was expert in giving practical examples. Prabhupada was just like this, just like that. He would give a lot of practical examples to help us understand. Just like a drop of sea, water, and the whole ocean. Just like this. So he will give this example. So with logic and argument, that support. Now, there is also us. We can also speculate here as long um, as the conclusion matches with um, Shastra. The thing is, like some people say that some people think that they are teaching very nicely because they can convince very nicely, because they can explain very nicely. Um, um, but the thing is that yes, we have intelligence, we can use our intelligence to explain things in more and more better way, but ultimately we are we are indebted to our Guru Maharaj, our spiritual master, and the Parampara for having given the real knowledge. Now, with Guru given intelligence, we can present the knowledge in n number of ways. We can add our own realizations, but ultimately, the conclusion is what we have received from our Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Actually, recently I was contemplating that our life is actually made of, there is nothing that is ours. There is nothing that is ours. Um, one of the thing that block our progress in Krishna consciousness is false pride. And false pride comes when there is a conception of um, something good is happening because of me. When I am in the center, false pride will come. When I am in the center. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, what is the solution how to overcome false pride? He says, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. Means, all glories to them means there is no glory for me. Just like Krishna says to Arjuna, Nimitra matram bhava savesachi. You become my instrument. Likewise, we should understand that have we can only become the instrument of Guru Parampara. Whatever we are today is because of the Guru Parampara. Whatever qualities we have developed is because of the Guru Parampara. Um, um, we are actually, it's like, how do I explain? Um, I mean, best way to understand is just remember your past. 10 years back, who were we? Uh, what activities were we engaged in? Uh, our whatever, how we would speak, how we would act, what will we do whole day, how many sinful activities we have performed. Now that's who we are actually. That's our true identification. So this one must not forget. And then on the top, there is a covering of Guru Parampara's mercy, who gave us knowledge, who gave us association, who gave us books, who gave us sadhana principles, who gave us seva. So, and then there is a prayer to Guru Maharaj, who gave us Radha Kund, who gave us Vrindavan, who gave us Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave us Nityananda Prabhu, who. So we are made up of their mercy. Whatever um, a disciple who is connected to Guru Parampara is actually carrying there is nothing of his own. He's actually carrying the mercy of previous Guru Parampara. This one has to realize. If one forgets the principle and start taking glory for oneself, one will fall down. Just for example, we may chant very nicely and then we may think that, oh, I'm chanting so nicely these days. Then this pride will lead to our taste in chanting will go away. Or if we preach very nicely and if we think, oh, see how nicely I'm preaching, then that will again lead us to um, um, uh, fall down. We will become ineffective in our preaching if we become proud of our preaching, and we will lose the mercy of the holy name also. So, whatever we do, this one has to realize that um, I am who I am actually birth after birth is a sinful, wretched soul engaged in birth after birth, all kind of sinful activities. But today people are calling saintly. People are calling us saintly. Why people are calling us saintly? That's only because of the mercy of Guru Maharaj and Parampara. My only qualification is, well, I am doing what they want me to do in a very immature way. I am trying. So I am actually made up of their instructions. I am actually made up of their mercy. So once one sees oneself low and give glories to Guru, that is the only way to overcome false pride. But naturally we are not trained to give glories to Guru. We are trained to take all the glories for ourselves. And the sign we are taking glories for ourselves is somebody glorify us. We become very happy. And the impure mind, he tells us, yeah, you are very good, Prabhu. You are very good, Mataji. So the mind actually is a false ego. False ego means I am the doer. So when there is the conception of I am the doer, then there is no question of Namitra Matram Bhava Savisachi. Then Arjuna is telling I am thinking. Arjuna is telling I am doing. Arjuna is telling I am killing. Likewise, we will say that I am chanting very nicely, I am preaching very nicely, I am reading very nicely. I. Then what happens? Then Vishaya Chadiya Kavya Shuddha Habima. This is a sign of impure mind. So, and this is because we have a desire to enjoy Vishaya. And as long as this is there, we won't be able to advance in our Krishna consciousness. We will face so many obstacles very frequently. Every week, every day, every month, very frequently, we will go through ups and downs in our Krishna consciousness. So this one has to cultivate. So I don't know why I came here, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu broke all the nine atheistic, rascal, foolish, and you can use all the terms you want. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, these Buddhists are not even fit to be seen. Um, दर्शनैका पंडिता सबाई पहिला पराजया लोका हास्य करे बौद्धा पहिला लज्जा भया. All mental speculators and learned scholars were defeated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and when the persons began to laugh, the Buddhist philosophers felt both ashamed and fear. So lajja bhaya. So they became insecure because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated with logic, arguments, and shastra, and they had no words to say. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated Digvijay Pandit, who later on received the mercy of Goddess Saraswati. So no words, and they felt very ashamed because especially the leader, he is too proud because I am the doer mentality. So these are my followers. And then when he was defeated, then there is fear. Oh no, and then there is shame. Oh no. So, following the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the preachers engaged in service of ISKCON should be very expert in putting forward strong argument and defeating all types of atheists. So, one should learn how to defeat atheists. We are servants of Krishna. So, we have to establish Jivara Swarupa Krishna Nityatas. So, we have to establish Krishna in the heart of every living entity. Then Krishna is very pleased. The Buddhists could understand that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a Vaishnava, and they returned home very unhappy. They could not defeat him, but they returned home very unhappy. Later, however, they began to plot against the Lord. This is the difference between, that's why demigod worshippers are much better than atheistic. Atheistic people are rascals, and demigod worship are at least in mode of goodness. You see the difference. See, he is defeated, and this Digvijay Pandit was defeated by Nimai Pandit. But Digvijay Pandit, although he was defeated, ashamed, crying, angry, when he went back, he took shelter of Saraswati. He took shelter of Saraswati. But here we saw these Buddhist rascals, they began to plot against the Lord. They wanted to harm him. So why? No shelter. There is no ashray. If something happens, then when you have no shelter, when you are atheistic rascal, you just you just want to harm the other person. But there we see he is trying to take shelter of Saraswati. And then what happens? Demigods will take us to Krishna if we are sincere. But otherwise, just act out of envy. So at least demigod worshippers are much better than thinking that I am the doer, atheistic. अपवित्र अन्न एका थाली ते भरिया. So thali te bhariya. One thali, bhariya means he filled one plate with apavitra anna. That's how he wanted to break the principle of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is by feeding him contaminated food. Prabhu age Nila Maha Prashada Baliya, and then Prabhu age, and then they came in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprasada Boliya, and then they say, they were defeated. But then they said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, um, um, we are very pleased with you, sweet words. We have brought some Mahaprasad for you. Please eat it. In other words, now Prabhupada says there, in other words, a Vaishnava cannot accept any food offered by an Avaishnav in the name of Mahaprasad. This should be the principle for all Vaishnavas. So, what is uncontaminated, untouchable food? Untouchable food, Srila Prabhupada defines in the purport what is untouchable food. He said, a food offered by a, a non-Vaishnava in the name of Mahaprasad, a non-Vaishnava. Now, something more on this. Even if an a Vaishnava means one who is not a devotee, cooks food without fault. Without fault means there is no onion, there is no garlic, there is no mushroom, there is no meat. He cooks food without fault. He cannot offer it to Lord Vishnu. He cannot offer, and it cannot be accepted as Mahaprasad. So even if the food is pure, apparently it is untouchable, because he cannot offer, because let us see, according to Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalatoyam yome bhakta prayachati tadaham bhakti upaharitam asnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So, what forces Krishna to accept love? Krishna is not hungry for gulab jamuns and rasgullas. Love. So, even if the food is apparently without fault, a non devotee cannot offer it. Even if he offers it, the Lord will not eat it. Definitely. So, Krishna can accept anything offered by his devotees with devotion. And a Vaishnav may be a vegetarian and a very clean cook. Sometimes, we say, no, he's a vegetarian, he's cooking for me without onion, garlic. It is considered contaminated. It is considered untouchable because Krishna is not going to accept it, because he is not a devotee. But because he cannot offer Vishnu the food he cooks, it cannot be accepted as Mahaprasad. It is better that a Vaishnava abandon such food as untouchable, even if it is like, like pious people, they are very nice and they are very clean. But until he's a Vaishnava, until he has devotion for the Lord, unless he is cooking out of devotion for Krishna, um, it cannot be offered. It cannot be accepted. It should be considered as untouchable. When the contaminated food was offered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a very large bird appeared on the spot, picked up the plate with its beak, and flew away. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Buddhist rascal, he came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, I have brought some Mahaprasad for you. So the bird, one large bird came and took the plate and flew away, the whole plate. So this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, the untouchable food fell upon the Buddhist, and the large bird dropped the plate on the head of the chief Buddhist rascal. When it fell on his head, it made a big sound. So this bird wanted to teach a lesson because Krishna says, among cheat, I am the best of the cheater. We cannot cheat Supreme Personality of Godhead. We will be thrashed if you try to cheat Krishna. So he tried to cheat Krishna by saying this Mahaprasad. So the eagle came, took the flute, and all the food the eagle threw onto the followers and took the plate and smashed the head of the Buddhist leader, and he fell down and all that. So this picture depicts that. Um, um, Tera chepadila thali matha kati gela. Matha kati means he started to bleed. Murchita hana acharya bhumita padila, and the plate with such force the eagle threw the plate, and the plate was so heavy that it cut his head, and then he started bleeding and he fell down unconscious. मूर्छित हाना आचार्य भूमिता पड़ीला, जमीन पे गिर गए वो. The plate was made of metal, and when its edge hit the head of the teacher, it cut him, and the teacher immediately fell to the ground unconscious. This is the result of when some Mahaprabhu would not do anything, but the arrangement were in such a way that these things will happen. Anybody went against Mahaprabhu, these things will happen. Another very good example is when Sarvam Bhattacharya was invited for prasad, was when he invited for prasad Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his son-in-law Amogha, he criticized Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he developed cholera, and he was at the verge of death. So anybody who would kind of chastise Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will go through a heavy reaction. And even, Ramchandra Puri, he criticized Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for eating sweets and eating a lot. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in all humility, he said, "Yes, I will reduce my eating into half. I'm eating a lot." And he always took a humble position, but it is described that in the next life he became a ghost. So nobody can play around with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Can have So this Buddhist fell down to the ground bleeding. हाहाकार करी कंदे सब शिष्य गण सब आशी प्रभु पाड़े लाइल शरण. So हाहाकार करी kande sabha, they all began to cry, and oh, what happened, like that. हाहाकार करी कंडे सब शिष्य गण सबे आशी प्रभु पड़े लाइला शरण. So they all took shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They understood that, I mean, they were innocent people. Usually the followers are innocent people. But if the Prabhupada says that if the leader is a rascal, Prabhupada says he will go to hell and all his followers will also go to hell. But usually followers like are innocent people, because of their own bad karma, they are following such a leader, they will also go to hell. So when they saw, now it's clear that he was defeated, he was acting out of envy, and I mean, your own Buddhist philosophy say, do good, be good, and then what are you doing? You're acting out of envy against the Lord, and you are telling do good and be good. So he got his reaction, and the followers could see, followers understand everything, that actually my leader is a rascal. So they ran to lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for shelter. Tumita Ishvara Shakshad Shama Aparad. So see, they are so simple people. They are telling ki Tumito Ishwar Shakshad Shama Aparad. Please forgive our offenses. You are Shakshad Ishwar. Jiyao Amara Guru Karaha Prasad. They all fell to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, addressed him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and saying, Sir, please excuse our offenses. Please have mercy upon us and bring our spiritual master back to life. Now, this is the mercy of a devotee. When a devotee prays like a simple hearted soul who, who can please Krishna, if he prays on behalf of even a non devotee atheist, they will get the mercy. A devotee can give mercy. So, when first by their words, to me, Sakshat Ishvara Shama Aparad, they um, 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 they receive the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jiyao Amar Guru Karaha Prasad, and please bring our spiritual master back to life. So this is seen even in a pure devotee of the Lord Prahlad Maharaj. Now naturally the Lord was very angry with Hiranyakashipu, but and the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu. Here he just felt unconscious, but the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu. Then Prahlad Maharaj says, "My Lord, please send him back home, back to God." So he was delivered. So that's, and he said, because I'm so grateful, anybody who has helped you 14 generations up and down will be delivered. So this is the mercy of a devotee. So those simple souls, relatively uncontaminated, could see things, could see, because when there is humility, you can actually see things in the right direction. But when there is puffed up by false pride, then you cannot see things as they are. So, the leader, because of false pride, and he was thinking they are all my followers, and everything, he was infected. So he was acting purely out of ego. But they were like simple souls because they were humble in front of gurus. That's why it is very safe to be a sincere follower. Very safe. Otherwise, one has to be very careful with oneself because the mind will trick in many ways. The false ego will increase, the pride will increase, everything will come, and one has to handle it. One has to become expert in handling one's own impurities. They actually, now, what happens when somebody comes to Krishna consciousness? In the beginning, one is always in a very humble position because one wants to learn. But what happens, it's not that one is pure, it's just one's, because of one's humility, one's true nature, true impure nature is covered because one is taking a humble position and one is willing to learn. But what happens over a period of time, that humbleness reduces because one thinks that I'm also very devotee, and then one starts judging, one starts finding fault, and then once all one's impurities again starts coming back. So it's relatively easier to make progress in the beginning because the mood is very conducive, but then one has to be very careful in delay. But nonetheless, even if we make mistakes, the Vaishnava association will actually purify us. Krishna will help us to become purified. So the Lord then replied to Buddhist disciples, "You should all chant the name of Krishna and Hari very loudly near the ear of your spiritual master." So, there is only one solution: chant the names of Krishna. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself ran to Amogha and he told Amogha, "Amogha, why did you let yourself act out of envy? Now you are paying the price for acting out of envy." Um, Envy, when acting out of envy, brings us to lot of trouble, and envy will trigger in our spiritual lives also, especially seeing others advancing, seeing others doing something that I want to do. It will trigger envy. Envy will come in many different ways. It just, because it's there in the heart, um, um, and um, um, it manifests. um, The Lord then replied that you also chant the name of Krishna and Hari very loudly near the ear of your spiritual master. Toma sabaro guru tabe paibe chetana sababauda mili kare Krishna sankirtana. By this method, your spiritual master will regain his consciousness. Following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advice, all the Buddhist disciples began to chant the holy name of Krishna congregationally in the ear of the Buddhist teacher. Guru करने कही सबे Krishna Rama Hari Chaitanya Pana Acharya Bole Hari Hari. When all the disciples chanted the holy name of Krishna, Rama, and Hari, which is Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Buddhist teacher regained consciousness and immediately began to chant the holy name of Lord Hari. So now he became a pure devotee. Now we cannot call him full names, but before previous verses we can call him. Why? Because he was a Buddhist. But now he has become a Vaishnava. Srila Bhakti Sahasrara Thakur comments that all the Buddhist disciples were actually initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu into the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. And when they chanted, they actually became different persons. Because Mahaprabhu, Kripa Siddha, Parama Karuna, Pahuduya, Nitai Gaura Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna killed all the demons. Whoever plotted against the Lord, Krishna simply killed him. But whoever plotted against Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, now Shishupal acted out of envy towards Krishna. Krishna took the Sudarshan Chakra and cut off his head. Amogha and this Buddhist teacher, they acted out of envy, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave them pure devotion. Even demons like Jagai and Madhai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave them pure devotion. Uttama Adhama na kare vichar. So he did not see who is qualified, who is not unqualified. That's why our shelter is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Um, um, Parama Ananda. They have come to give us Parama Ananda just by taking shelter of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. That's why our first goal is actually to become a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Without becoming a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Radha Krishna will only be imagination. We will only end up becoming sahajiyas. We cannot become real devotees. Real devotees, yeah. That is, Krishna is too high. Radharani is too high. Mahaprabhu has to bring us to Radha and Krishna. The Goswamis. By the path of Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that will give us adhikar to access Radha and Krishna. Otherwise, simple sahajiyas. Sahajiya means who want Radha Krishna very cheaply. And out of false pride, they think like there is, Narottam Das Thakur says, Ahankara matta hayya, Nitai pada pasharya. Ahankara matta hayya, Nitai pada pasharya. One thinks, why should I take shelter of Nitai? What can Nitai do for me? This is ahankar. So what is false pride? One time I was recently listening and um, um, one devotee told my spiritual master, His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj, that, Maharaj said you have to cry to Nityananda Prabhu, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and to the Goswamis. And then that person, that devotee, he said, I don't feel like crying. I don't feel like crying. Then my Guru Maharaj told him, that is only because of your false pride. Because you are too puffed up, you are thinking, why I need to cry? What is the need to cry? Because you are thinking, without crying also I will attain it. Without them also I will attain it. Why I need to cry? So the ahankar is too much puffed up. So I was shocked when I heard my Guru Maharaj saying, he said, because you are too puffed up, you. So that's when Narottam Das Thakur is saying, don't be so much into ahankar, thinking, what can Nitai do for me? Why do I need now? Why do I need to take shelter of Nitai? Why do I need to take shelter of Gaurang Mahaprabhu? Why do I need to take shelter of the Goswamis? Why do I need to take shelter of Guru? Why do I need a spiritual master? I will chant Hare Krishna and I will go back to Krishna. It's just a sign of lot of puffing up of false ego, that we are thinking that, I can make it by myself. When you try, it just keep coming birth after birth, in cycle of birth and death. So don't be so much influenced by ahankar, by false pride. Humility means I need help. Okay. Now that itself requires some purification. That itself requires some purification to come to the realization that I need to take shelter of Nithya. So if it is a spiritual master who deliver the disciple from the clutches of Maya by initiating him into the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So what is the role of spiritual master? It delivers the disciple from the clutches of Maya by initiating him in chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. In this way, a sleeping human being can revive his consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In other words, the spiritual master awakens the sleeping living entity to his original consciousness so that he can worship Lord Vishnu. This is the purpose of Diksha or initiation. Initiation means receiving pure knowledge of spiritual consciousness. That's why I spoke a little bit about importance of accepting spiritual master, because he will deliver us from the clutches of Maya. When the spiritual master of the Buddhists began to chant the holy name of Krishna and submitted to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people who were gathered there were astonished. So when everybody saw that this Buddhist leader, he came to the consciousness, and he's an atheist. He is actually arguing with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no God. The Vedas are made by humans, and all this, um, um, nine. What do we say? I want to use a very heavy word. Nonsense. Nine nonsense philosophical uh, illusions. Uh, Same teacher is now chanting Hari, 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 Hari. So everybody was very, very much astonished. And wow, the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. এই রূপে কৌতুকা করি সচিরানন্দনা Antardhana Kaila Keha Napaya Darshana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Sachi Devi, then suddenly and playfully disappeared from everyone's sight, and it was impossible for anyone to find. So everybody started glorifying the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wow, everyone is astonished. Even the Buddhists, everybody became a pure devotee. The disciples and the guru, Buddhist guru, they all started chanting the name of Krishna, Krishna. And the brahmanas, you see in a picture, the brahmanas were shocked and they were watching also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared. He was sitting under a tree, and then he disappeared, and nobody could see him. What happened, how he suddenly disappeared. And Mahaprabhu continued his South India tour. Mahaprabhu chali aila Tirupati Trimale Chaturbhuja Murti dekhi Venkata Chale. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived at Tirupati and Tirumala, where he saw the four-handed deity. Then he proceeded toward Venkata Hill. This Tirumala is actually Balaji. There's on the Venkata Hill, there is a deity of Balaji. Um, um, Prabhupada says this Venkateshwar deity is in the form of Lord Vishnu, and the place where he is situated is known as Venkata Kshetra. There are many temples in South India, but this Balaji temple is specially opulent. A lot of people give a lot of donation to this Tirupati temple. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there, he paid his obeisances there also. And then he went to Pana Narsimha, close by. Everywhere Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, his influence astonished everyone. Wherever Mahaprabhu went, he would chant the holy name. People will be shocked by seeing him, his appearance, divinity, and everybody would take to chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We see even when Mahaprabhu went to Sri Rangam, everybody was introduced to Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting. So this is Narsimha temple, Pana Narsimha. Everywhere Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, his influence astonished everyone. He next arrived at the temple of Pana Narsimha. The Lord is so merciful. Within this temple is a conch shell presented by the late king of Tanjore, and it is said that this shell was used by Lord Krishna himself. This Pana Narsimha is Narsimha Dev, but his mouth is open, like something can go inside and it will go down. Kind of, he has an open mouth. So very special deity of Pana Narsimha. So it is said that in this temple there is also conch shell that was used by Lord Krishna himself. It is located on the hill of Mangalagiri, um, about 7 miles from a city known as Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh. Tirupati Balaji, and they are Andhra Pradesh. Then the three most well-known Narsimha shrines in Andhra Pradesh are Ahobilam, Simhachalam, and Mangalagiri. Mangalagiri means the auspicious hill. This place is one of the 8 important Mahakshetras where Lord self-manifested. They're called Mahakshetras. So Srirangam is one of them, and Pana Narsimha is one of Mahakshetras, 8 Mahakshetras, where the Lord manifested himself in Mangalagiri in the form of Nashingadev. So these are very, very famous temples. Mahaprabhu went Tirupati Balaji, Pana Narsimha. Then he will also go to Kanchipuram, where Vardharaj Swami is there. And then he went to Ranganath temple. So all the famous temples he went, and famous Shiv temples he went. So any famous temple Mahaprabhu went and gave love of Krishna. So in making, this is something, in making offering to Lord Pana Narasimha, the temple priest take a pot of sweet jaggery water and pours half of the drink with a conch shell into the Lord's mouth. You know how they offer food? Like jaggery water, they put jaggery water, and he has an open mouth. They will put in his mouth and pour half, and half they will. The rest is returned to the offer as Mahaprasad. While the water is being poured into the mouth of the Lord, a gurgling sound is heard, like the sound of drinking. So it goes down into the rocks, basically. It's an open deity, kind of very special, self-manifested deity. So he eats directly. So it goes down. It's on a hill, Mangalagiri. So when it goes down, a gurgling sound is heard. Even though there is so much sugar water offered here, there is not a single ant on the hill by the mercy of Nashinga Swami. It is said that no ant, although lot of jaggery water is offered, sugar water. It is said the Lord Nasimha rested here after killing Hiranyakashipu, and Lakshmi Devi then gave him a drink to quench his thirst. So she gave him a water, and he took a break here. And so the Lord later on self manifested in Mangalagiri as Pana Narsimha. So बहुत पीते हैं वो, and no ant is found. So then the Lord went there, offered many prayers to Nashingadev. He went to Simhachalan also, we saw last week. Shiva Kanchi Ashiya Kaila Shiva Darashane Prabhave Vaishnava Kaila Sabha Shaiva Gana, arriving at Shiva Kanchi. Then after Pana Narsimha, so he went to Tirupati Balaji. Then nearby, continuing Andhra Pradesh, he went to Pana Narsimha and close to Vijayawada. Then he went to Shiva Kanchi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we will see like the glory of Shiva Kanchi. So arriving at Shiva Kanchi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the deity of Lord Shiva. By his influence, he converted all the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. So this is common thing. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says. Shiva Kanchi is also known as Kanchipuram, or the Banaras of South India. Just like Banaras in North India is considered a place of Lord Shiva. Likewise, Kanchipurn is Banaras of South India. In Shiva Kanchi, there are hundreds of temples containing symbolic representations of Lord Shiva, like some lingas, Durga Devi, Bhairavi. There are many deities of Lord Shiva in Kanchipurna. And one of these temples is said to be very, very old. It is located in Tamil Nadu. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making the transition across the ocean, Bay of Bengal, from Andhra Pradesh to Tamil Nadu. And in Tamil Nadu, we will go through Vardharaj Swami, Sri Rangam. So they are all in Tamil Nadu. So he went famous places in South India. and now he is going to famous places in Tamil Nadu. Um, mm. and this is one of the most famous old Shiva temple there. Um, and you can take darshan of Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati from Shiva Kanchi, Banaras of South India, but the most famous temple in South India of Lord Shiva. And he is a Param Vaishnava, so we can pray for pure devotion. And then continuing, Vishnu Kanchi Ashi Dekhila Lakshmi Narayana Pranama Kariya Kaila Bahuthastavana. The Lord then visited a holy place known as Vishnu Kanchi. So there he saw, so after Shiva Kanchi, he went to Vishnu Kanchi. So actually, Vishnu Kanchi is also in Kanchipurna, but it is like just 5 miles away. So there is a whole town of Lord Shiva. And very next, it's considered a part of Kanchipurna only, but around 5 miles from there is Vishnu Kanchi. There he saw the Lakshmi Narayan deities and he offered his respect and many prayers to please them. Vishnu Kanchi is situated about 5 miles away from Kanchipurna. It is here that Lord Vardharaj, another form of Lord Narayan, Vishnu resides. There is also a big lake known as Ananta Sarovar. Those who know, um, um, there are many stories of Ramanujacharya, spiritual master Yamunacharya would stay here, and lot of stories at Vardharat Swami. It is little far from Srirangam. So the Lord went here and took darshan of Vardharat Swami. They say that the Lord give darshan here once in 40 years. He comes out for 48 days and 24 days he give darshan of Lord Narayan in sleeping posture and 24 days in standing posture, something like that. So you can take darshan of Vardharaj Swami. He is mostly submerged in water for 40 years around. That's what they say. I never went there though. Premavesh Nitya Gita Bahuta Karila Dina Doi Rahe Loke Krishna Bhakta Kaila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Vishnu Kanchi for 2 days, Vishnu Kanchi is like Kanchipur. Those who have heard some stories in ISKCON, we may have heard of Ramanuja stories are also very common. And Kuresh is there, and then um, um, what is the name of that disciple who wanted to know the meaning of Sarva Dharma Parityaja? So Ramanujacharya told him that, Yamunacharya, go and ask Yamunacharya, he is more qualified. So he went to Kanchipurna and served Vardhanath Swami, and there and then Yamunacharya told him that a Vaishnava is like a salt, like a crane, like that, and then he went and further got the answer from Ramanujacharya what it means. So so many Sri Sampradaya stories. One of the main shrine in Sri Sampradaya is Vardharat Swami. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Vishnu Kanchi, which is Kanchipurna, for 2 days, he danced and performed kirtan in ecstasy. When all the people saw him, they were converted into devotees of Lord Krishna. So that's common thing that Mahaprabhu, common theme he follows is, he's Krishna himself and he gave him love of God. The Lord then visited a place known as Go Samaj, where he saw Lord Shiva temple. This is actually Bhairavi Shiva temple. So the Lord visited there. He then arrived at Vedavan, where he saw another deity of Lord Shiva and offered him prayers. Seeing the Shiva deity named Amrita Linga, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances. Thus, he visited all the temples of Lord Shiva and converted devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. So, whichever comes on the way, Mahaprabhu was visiting, starting from Puri all the way toward the south, Andhra Pradesh, where he met Ramananda Roy, and then um, um, Mallikarjuna, Shiv, Jyotirlinga, one of the 12 most important Jyotirlinga, then went to the village of Brahmanas, and then Simhachalam, Ahobilam, and then he continued, and then he came to um, um, Balaji, and in between there are many stories like, he delivered um, um, Very bad memory. The Brahmana who wanted to go with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, um, uh, um, but he said, "No, you stay here. Always chant the holy name of Krishna." And then he delivered the leper, uh, the Vipra, um, and then Mahaprabhu came back and then gave him mercy. Then meeting Ramananda Roy. So this is all journey. And then throughout South India, our Balaji temple, and then came to Tamil Nadu, and now there is Shiva Kanchi, Vishnu Kanchi, Vardharaj Swami. So this is going on. And then, yeah, then the Lord visited this another place where there are a lot of Shiva temple, and then he paid obeisances and converted all of them into Vaishnavas. Then now finally we will stay here for some long time is Ashiranga. So finally, after Vardharaj Swami and many places in between, then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Rangachetra. पापनाशने विष्णु कैला दर्शना Sriranga Kshetra Tabe Kaila Agamana. Agamana means now finally he arrived at Srirangam. After visiting the holy place named Shiva Kshetra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Papanashana and there saw the temple of Lord Vishnu. Then he finally reached Sri Rangachetra. So some just the route is described that this temple, this temple, this temple. If you trace, you can see the route. But the pastimes are described only at few major locations. So Sri Rangachetra, Sri Rangam is very famous place. It lies in the district of Tiruchirappalli. Many celebrated kings like Kulashekara, Yamunacharya, Ramanuja resided in the temple of Srirangam. So this is a very famous place actually, Srirangam Kshetra. It's in the district of Tiruchirappalli uh, in Tamil Nadu. Actually, something personal. Um, I was looking into the college. There used to be some exam, AIEEE, something like that. I forgot. So then I was thinking there were some NITs. So I was thinking to go to NIT Trichy in Tiruchirappalli or Varangal. Or then my parents told me, no, you stay nearby. So I studied in Allahabad, bachelor. So from there, because I really liked that college. So Tiruchirappalli, there is Srirangam there. कावेरीते स्नान करी देखी रंगनाथ स्तुति प्रणति करी मान नीला कृतार्था. After bathing in river Kaveri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the temple of Ranganath and offered his ardent prayers and obeisances. Thus he felt himself successful. There, Narayan lies in Sheshashai posture, in sleeping posture in Ranganath. So Mahaprabhu came and lots of stories of this Ranganath Swami. So Mahaprabhu came and offered obeisances, and they were like strong influence of Sri Sampradaya, the followers of Sri Ramanujacharya. Lot of devotees from Andhra Pradesh and lot of devotees from Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu. They are followers of Sri Sampradaya Acharya. प्रेमावेश कैला बहुता गण नर्तना देखी चमत्कारा हैला sabha lokera mana. In the temple of Ranganath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted and danced in ecstatic love of God. Seeing his performance, everybody was struck with wonder. Now there are Vaishnavas, so they all had their experience. Mainly, Sri Sampradaya, mainly lot of deity worship, and the deity worship is full of awe and reverence. Lot of prayers, lot of mantras. Um, yeah, so I mean, I had a friend, kind of, he was a follower of Sri Sampradaya. That time I used to come to Detroit Temple over the weekends. So this Prabhu would chant 16 rounds, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but he was a follower of Sri Sampradaya. Because Sri Sampradaya chant Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. But not every Sri Sampradaya chants 16 rounds. In fact, they don't have any such regulation. They just recommend chanting, but they do lot of worship of Narayan in the form of awe and reverence, kind of. So, um, um, yeah. So they have, like, when they speak to any sannyasis, na, they do like this, because the spit from the mouth cannot come. So very, very high respect they have. Um, Even when Balaji were uh, installed Venkateshwar temple in Novai, like, I don't know which year was that, probably 8 years back. So one leader sannyasi came to install this Venkateshwar temple, and that time we used to live in Novai. So me and Yugal Kishore Prabhu, and there was one more brahmachari that time, Anand Leela Prabhu. We three were there. So we three went for installation of Venkateshwar temple, and we met the sannyasi. Went to the home where the sannyasi. The sannyasi is very famous in Sri Sampradaya, where he was taking prasad. So in the temple of Ranganasi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted and danced in ecstatic love of God. Seeing his performance, everyone was struck with wonder. श्री वैष्णव एका वेंकट भट्ट नाम प्रभु रे निमंत्रण कैला करिया सम्मान, and there was the leader, and the leader, his name was Venkata Bhatt, a Vaishnav known as Venkata Bhatt. Actually, let us see, he was very much, his heart kind of shook when he heard. Now he was a Sri Sampradaya initiated follower in the parampara of Ramanujacharya. But when he heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing, crying, and his Sankirtan, his heart shook in wonder, and everybody were like astonished. Actually, when you see Prem Sankirtan with lot of divine energy, everybody watch and wonder, wow, what is this? But Venkata Bhatta, being a very pure-hearted soul, very, very simple soul, he was really, really attracted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sannyasi. So he invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great respect. Sri Venkata Bhatta was a Vaishnava Brahmana and an inhabitant of Sri Ranga Kshetra. He belonged to the disciplic succession of Sri Ramanujacharya. He had a brother in Ramananda Sampradaya known as Shripad Prabodhananda Saraswati. Prabodhananda Saraswati is a great Rasika Vaishnava. uh, he later on, Prabodhananda Saraswati made his residence. He was a sannyasi actually, Prabodhananda Saraswati. He made his residence in Vrindavan, and his bhajan kutir and samadhi is today at Kalia Ghat. Those who have been to Vrindavan, Kalia Ghat, just where Krishna chastised Kaliya demon, just behind that site is that's where Prabhupada Saraswati did bhajan. And he wrote many wonderful books like Vrindavan Mahimamrita, and then Radha Shuddh Bhakti Nidhi. So likewise, many books. One of the great Acharya in Madhurya Ras wrote many books. The son, but he told Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami that don't mention my name. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami went for his blessings, and then he said, "Well, I give you my blessings, but don't mention my name," along with others. So Sripad Prabodhana Saraswati was also there, and Venkata Bhatt was there, and the son of Venkata Bhatt, who was actually later on came to be known as Gopal Bhatt Goswami, um, um, and he later on established Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. Those who have been to Vrindavan, they know that Radharaman deity is one of the center of attraction of Vrindavan. So, self-manifested deity uh, uh, from Shaligram Shila, self-manifested deity. So more information about him can be found in a book called Bhakti Ratnakar by Narahari Chakravarti. Narahari Chakravarti is one of the disciple in the line of third generation disciple in the line of Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya. And he has a book called Bhakti Ratnakar, and very, very famous book. And Srila Prabhupada is writing, if you want to know more about Gopal Bhatt Goswami, you can refer to Bhakti Ratnakar. My Guru Maharaj quotes many, many pastimes from Bhakti Ratnakar. Many stories that we have heard are actually from Bhakti Ratnakar, like how the books were lost, King Viram Veer pastime, and Srinivasacharya, Srinivasacharya went into ecstasy, and his and about Narottam Das Thakur, if you have heard much Narottam Das Thakur, and how Ramchandra Puri, when Narottam Das Thakur says Ramachandra Sangamag Narottama Das, how Narottam Das and Ramchandra Puri together preach in Bengal, Srinivasacharya how he delivered, and Shamananda Pandit how he delivered in Orissa, and his Shamananda Acharya's disciple Rasikananda. He even delivered an elephant, initiated an elephant by the name Gopal. So there are many stories of the Acharyas after the six Goswamis. How Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shamananda Pandit, they all came and they would study under Shri Jiva Goswami in Vrindavan. So there are many things that we have heard. They are all from this book Bhakti Ratnakar by Narahari Chakravarti. So even I think around 3 months back, Vaibhav Prabhu, I think he got married and his wife was coming. So I requested Vaibhav Prabhu, bring a copy of Bhakti Ratnakar. It's not available online. So we have one copy of Bhakti Ratnakar in the temple. Um, yeah, so Prabhupada is telling that you may find more information about them and about Gopal Bhatta Goswami in his book. Even how Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the story of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, there is no mention of Gopal Bhatta Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The story of the appearance of Radha Raman the day after Nashinga Chaturthi, when he wanted to serve the personal form and dress them in ornament alankar. Then the Lord manifested himself as Radha Raman and turned into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is all from Bhakti Ratnakar. So one book commonly read in our Gaudiya line by Vaishnavas to know more about the devotees after the Goswamis, the line, understanding, hearing from Vaishnavas about Vaishnava, because hearing about pure devotee of Krishna is very inspiring, and their lives and how Krishna reciprocated with them is highly inspirational. Nija ghare lana kaila pada prakshalana seijala lana kaila savam se bhakshana. Sri Venkata Bhatta took Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home. After he washed the Lord's feet, all the members of his family drank the water. So Venkat Bhatt was very cultured and very simple, very pure-hearted, and he loved Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is in the picture Venkat Bhatt. You see him, with all the Vaishnava attires and the tilak of Ramanujacharya, and strong worshipper of Ranganath and Vardharaj Swami. So that was the line he's coming from. But highly attracted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not discriminate. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually he went to preach, and we will see Venkata Bhatt also along with his brother Prabodhanda Saraswati. He was also a Sri Vaishnavite. Along with his son Gopal Bhatta Goswami, everybody became a pure devotee of Krishna by association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, and you see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also did not discriminate between Lord Shiva's devotees or Durga's devotees. There is a mention, he also went to the temple of Bhairavi, Durga Devi, and made them into Krishna devotees. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not discriminate any demigod worshipper. Instead, he or Narayan or any worshipper, he tried Jare Dekha Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh. Nowadays we see, there is some kind of uh, um, not very positive feeling if somebody is um, following something else. But that's not how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acted. Rather, he is trying to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he simply served. But we as Vaishnavas, aspiring Vaishnavas, we try to see, okay, how can I serve in this situation? How can I serve? So Shri Venkata Bhatta took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then naturally very humble, simple soul. So as soon as Mahaprabhu entered the home, they washed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, and they all drank the water. Now imagine Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, apart from one devotee in Puri Leela, we will see once Mahaprabhu comes back to from Vrindavan. Right now, South India tour, then there will be Vrindavan tour. where instruction to Rup and Sanatana and many divine pastimes in Vrindavan. And then when Mahaprabhu came to Puri, then Puri Leela. These are very detailed pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tour. There we see that only one Vaishnava was allowed to drink the water that has washed the foot foot of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Venkata Bhatt was so fortunate, and his family members, Prabhu Saraswati, his wife, his son, they all drank the water that washed the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After offering lunch to the Lord, Venkata Bhatt submitted that during that the period of Chaturmas has already arrived. So he said Chaturmas. During that time also, Chaturmas nobody would travel because there were no flights, there were no trains. During Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, none of these things were there. He just walked all over South India and he went back, all walking only. Now, during Bhaktivinoda Thakur time, trains were becoming more common, just 100, years back. And now flights are there. So now there is now Vaishnava sannyasis don't stay at one place for 4 months Chaturmas because the reason is Chaturmas it will rain all the time, and these are traveling sannyasis. So how will they travel if it is raining? I mean, you are walking and you are drenched in water, and then what do? So rather, they focus on their bhajan. They stay at one place and they just focus on bhajan. Just like, the four Bhakti Vedantas came to Narad Muni's home and Chaturma started, so they stayed in their home. So Chaturma started during that time. So Venkata Bhatt told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my lord, it has started, why don't you stay here? Um, Chaturmase kripa kari raha mora ghare. So very intelligent, very, I mean, naturally very attractive because of his humility and service attitude. So he, with all eagerness, he said, please stay at my home. Krishna kata kahi kripaya udhara amare. And then, although a great Vaishnava, he is telling, Krishna ke bare mein boliye. Krishna katha kahi. Please speak about Krishna. Kripaya abhar udhar amare, and deliver all of us. Show your mercy and deliver all of us. तानरा घरे रहिला प्रभु कृष्ण कथा रासे भट्ट संगे गुणाइला सुखे चारी मासे. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed and he remained at the house of Venkata Bhatta for 4 continuous months. Those who have been to Sri Rangam or who go to Sri Rangam, you see there is a place called Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed here during the 4 month of Chaturmas. So that is still a place of pilgrimage for all Sri Vaishnavites and anybody who goes there. Is Mahaprabhu stayed here for 4 months. The Lord passed his days in great happiness, enjoying the transcendental mellow of discussing Lord Krishna's pastimes. Um, Laksha Laksha Loka Aila Nana Desha Haite Sabha Krishna Namaka Hai Prabhu Ke Dekhite. Many hundreds of thousands of people from various countries came to see the Lord, and after seeing him, they all chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So the news spread that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is staying here. So from various places, all the kind of people, Brahmanas, Vaishnavites, all anybody, among thousands, hundreds of thousands of people came to take darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because one place. So Mahaprabhu gave lot of mercy when he was staying in Srirangam, and whoever saw Mahaprabhu, he gave them Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Krishna Nama Veena Keha Nahi Kahe Ar, Sarve Krishna Bhakta Haila Loke Chamatkar. Indeed, they did not chant anything but the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So anybody who came to anybody who got the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whatever they were chanting, they gave up everything and they just chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And all of them became Lord Krishna's devotees. Thus the general populace were astonished. I mean, Sri Rangam, and everyone is started chanting Hare Krishna now in Sri Rangam. Sri Ranga Kshetre Vaisa Yata Vaishnava Brahmana Eka Eka Dina Sabe Kaila Nimantrana. All the Vaishnava Brahmanas residing in Ranga Kshetra invited the Lord to their homes. Indeed, he had an invitation every day. 4 months Mahaprabhu stayed, but he did not stay at only Venkata Bhatta's home. Yes, he would spend the night there, but every day he would take lunch. Every day, different Sri Vaishnavite Brahmanas. There are so many people who live in Ranga Kshetra. So different Brahmanas would call Mahaprabhu in their home for prasadam, and they would start chanting of nothing else but Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In that way, Mahaprabhu stayed there for 4 months and converted the heart of entire Ranga Kshetra into chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Eka eka dina chatur mase purna haila kataka brahmana bhiksha dite na paila. Every day, Lord was invited by different brahmana. Not like, one brahmana is inviting Lord for 5 times. No, every time, by a different brahmana. But some of the brahmanas did not get the opportunity to offer. So 4 months is 120 days, and there are so many brahmana families. So some of them did not get an opportunity, but they all were lined up to invite Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for in their home, um, because the period of Chaturmas came to an end. Um, um, Shri, this is the last verse for today. Shri Kshetra rahe eka Vaishnava Brahmana Devalaya Ashikare Gita Avartana. In the holy place of Sri Ranga Kshetra, a Brahmana Vaishnava used to visit the temple daily and recite the entire text of Bhagavad Gita. So this many of you have heard, illiterate Brahmana receiving a direction of Guru and would recite Bhagavad Gita every day, although he doesn't understand the meaning, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the mercy and the importance of what happens if one follows the instruction of one's Guru Maharaj. That is emphasized in the story of illiterate Brahmana and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there are various. We will stay here at least the whole the whole day next week at Sri Ranga, and then Mahaprabhu will gradually start going back and to end his South India tour. So that's all we have for today. Are there any questions? Then we can take now. Any questions?
No questions, Coach.
Okay. Okay, so we will end here. Vanchakalpa tarudasha kripa sindhuve evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavendra ki jai. Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.